What?
We're live.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back for another beautiful week of virtual tastings with us here at Becker Vineyards. Tonight, we are kicking off the vertical Chardonnay tastings with the 2016 Reserve Chardonnay from the Canada Family Vineyards. I do apologize for last Friday's troubles. We had some technological difficulties, and for some reason, we weren't able to go live. So we're so happy to be able to join you tonight. Tonight, we've got with us Dr. Richard Becker, our winemaker, Jon Leahy, and our assistant winemaker and enologist, Rachel Fanning. I'm going to pass this over to them and let them talk to you about this beautiful wine. Cheers, you guys.
Cheers, Kaylin. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. I think you're going to give Rebecca a run for her money. So just saying, you know, you snooze, you lose. So thanks for that. So Doc, before I completely go crazy, would you like to introduce us with a few words, sir?
Very few. Just we're still not on the fire escape in New York, in our part of the world. This disease is very much here, very active. We have a lot of things that have to begin, including school for some people, and we just need to be very mindful of all the conservative things we can do to protect ourselves and protect people around us. Masks, social distancing, and let's get through this together. And what will lead us there will be a nice glass of Chardonnay.
I will drink to that. I would love everybody to drink to that, actually, especially this wonderful 2016 Canada Family Vineyard Chardonnay. So give it a swirl, a sniff, and a taste, and let's get this underway. It's a hard job, Rachel, but I think we can do it.
It's a hard knock life. Yes, it is.
Oh, we're doing show tunes.
Sorry.
So, Doc, do you know any of the show tunes from Hello, Dolly?
Yes, but I can't sing it right now. I'm a little hoarse, and I've lost.
Well, I'm going to tell everybody out there: do not let Dr. Becker fool you. He does an Ethel Merman like nobody's business.
She would have loved to watch bass. I can do it.
So, Rachel, would you lead us off on this before I go on yet another wild tangent?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things I would like to bring up, I know, earlier on in the season, we were talking a lot about our glasses and looking at your glasses. John, you're using your Somme glass, right? And
yes.
Is that the new noir?
Yeah.
Is that,
it is. Well, I also have this one too. So I'm preferring my Somme glass for this. Yeah.
What is the other one? Just the regular one?
Yeah.
What do you have? What are you drinking out of, Doc?
A Somme glass. It's actually what Riedel calls their Oregon Pinot glass, but it's great for things like this, I think.
Yeah. I'm really excited about this. I've been so excited about it all day long because I have the Riedel Oak Chardonnay glass. Just one, and I covet it like nothing else. And this to me is such a game changer. If you love oak Chardonnays, this one is going to make you remember why you love them so much. You're going to use this and go, oh my gosh, I totally didn't even know that my oak Chardonnay would do this. It's lovely. I love this glass so much.
Yeah, do you have the one with the light ridges in the middle, running the length? Okay.
No, that's the performance glass, right?
Yeah, I've got that one, the oak Chardonnay, but I've got the Somme glass, and I like this glass, but I'm getting some really nice, deeper notes out of the Somme glass.
Right.
It's really nice. Okay, Doc, I think we need to make fun of Gary right now since he's on. and a particular email.
I thought he nailed this, John. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. It's rather embarrassing. Oh, okay. So what notes are you getting on the nose, Rachel?
Right. So first, and this is, I poured it a little while ago, and it's taken a little bit longer than I expected to warm up a bit. So it's been fun to watch it go through these citrusy stages. And the oak is very much prominent. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's lovely oak, but even that has changed a little bit over the time that it's been open. You got nice toasty vanilla notes, of course. You got, there's something that's a little savory on it that I can't quite put my finger on.
Doc, what about you? What are you getting in the nose?
In thinking about the Chardonnay grape, You know, it's in cool climates, it makes lean, crisp, high acid, citrus, that sort of thing. In a warmer climate, more heavy tropical fruit. When it's been through oak and malolactic as this one has, then more of the butter begins to appear. And so I think this is in the direction of a warmer vineyard Chardonnay, and it has honey, tropical fruit. And I ask the candidates what clone they have, and they aren't sure. You know, everybody should know if there's a place that's been identified to grow Chardonnay in Texas, it's their property. There was an abandoned Chardonnay vineyard there for 10 years, something like that, that survived. And just, you know, we think how finicky, how sensitive to late spring freeze, how sensitive to cold. Here we are in far northwest Texas, and with no pruning, no drip irrigation. I think I'm telling the truth about that.
Yeah, on
And
the
then-
old top, you are absolutely.
And
Yeah.
in this old vineyard of Chardonnay, and the Canada's brought it back. That was really Brenda's first project. Just an amazing thing. So this must be the place to grow Chardonnay in Texas.
Yeah, you can't argue it. I mean, especially, you know, their newer planting too up front on that little hillock there with
Yeah.
that 5 acres, and it produces some beautiful fruit. Well, the 2016 was the year that we took the older Chardonnay early, thinking that we might like to make a bit of sparkling base. We tried that 2 years. Both years we ended up folding it back in for the acid back into the younger, more ripe block. And it's done a brilliant job. So there is some native acid left in there, and there's quite a few mature notes from that really super ripe edge of the younger fruit. So I'm really liking that, almost not quite cotton candy, but almost caramel edge. And that's to me the right amount of malactic fermentation on there. It gives more of a caramel or butterscotch edge to it, not just a raw butter edge. And I really enjoy that. So did you just dump your wine glass, Doc?
No, I found a glass like Rachel's, and there's no question it's better than this. It's surprising.
Well, I'll grab one like Rachel's too.
Okay.
I'm telling you guys, I love this glass. Anytime I have an oak white, I'm like, I can't use the glass.
Uh-huh.
If we have any more at the winery, I'm going to abscond with them. I mean, not steal. I'll buy them. I'm just going to say I'm taking them before anybody else gets them.
No, I'm going to go against the grain. I'm still preferring this.
Do you?
Yeah, I still prefer the Pinot glass. Yeah, I don't know. It's something about Burgundy for some reason. It just keeps sticking in my head.
And it was first probably its parentage is in Burgundy, between Pinot Noir and the white grape Gouvet Blanc that came from Asia. And it was cultivated beginning in the 11th century in Chablis by the Cistercian monks. And it's been just the mainstay of white wine in Burgundy, from top to bottom, from Chablis all the way down to the Maconnais, Chardonnay.
And that's such a great. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak over.
No, that's it. But I'm just thinking, when you think about Chardonnay, you should think, and you should think about Burgundy, and they make it in stainless steel with little or no oak and little or no malolactic in Chablis, and 2 years in new French oak barrels in Burgundy.
Wait a minute. Back up there for a second. Did you just say 2 years in French oak barrels?
Yes, I'm selling them our barrels. We're shipping them. It's working wonderfully, John. They're glad to get them.
Now, do they actually allow the wine to stay in barrel for 2 full years?
If they have poor judgment, they do. I think it's if they've lost their sense of taste and smell, yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I guess,
what you were saying is exactly what I was trying to not interrupt you, but allude to as well, that when you talk about way back when, the origins of Chardonnay and all the different styles that's being produced from Burgundy to all over Europe, actually, and then into the New World. and the different styles, whether you have a big oaky Chardonnay, a big buttery Chardonnay, a big oaky buttery Chardonnay, or you have a more stainless still. It's such a good grape to do so many things with, and it holds up to so many different styles of treatment.
So Doc, we've got a question here. What are the key differences are there between an oaked and an unoaked Chardonnay? In your mind, what are some of the key differences?
Well, the oak Chardonnay is probably virtually always going to have malolactic fermentations. That's going to be a major difference, but it's going to have a lot of softening of a lot of the fruit notes. It's going to have some of the butterscotch notes. It's going to have the vanilla of oak. I guess that's the principal addition for sure.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So if you think, so the other side of that equation is that if you taste the great Chablis, which are made in stainless steel with no malolactic fermentation, that is the great expression of Chardonnay fruit. And then as you begin to do secondary fermentation, as you begin to add it to oak, it changes. But if you find a great Chablis, that is what Chardonnay really is. And before all other wonderful things can happen, it can turn into champagne. It can become Le Montrachet and be worth $2,000 a bottle.
Yeah.
None of these are bad directions, but I think the great bargain in wine is a Chablis, a good Chablis.
Well, we do. To me, one of the key differences with the oak fermentation and aging is that we build a lot more body. We do sacrifice some of the fruit for that body. And that's why we do keep some of our Chardonnay in stainless as well throughout there so that we can go back and blend it out to see where we want to go with it. But I my heart and soul really loves Chardonnay that's 2 full years in barrel, put away in the cellar, aged sur lees, a little batonnage during MLF. And for those of you who want to know what I just said, for malolactic fermentation, we keep it on a heavy lees. The lees start to settle down on the bottom of the barrel, and we actually stir that up. Batonnage. We take a baton and put it in there and stir it up.
It's
and that
a stick.
helps.
It's the French word for a stick.
Stick. Yep.
Stick.
Softly and carry a big stick. Anyway, the idea behind this particular technique is to increase the glycerol production from the yeast for that nice heavy weight in the mid palate.
My mother kept a baton on top of the icebox. Whenever she got mad at me, I got batonnage. So,
oh, so you're fully acquainted with the idea of Irish love.
I am.
Okay, somebody said, not sure if we covered this. How do we determine the alcohol percentage in a wine? Well, we go to Rachel. So, Rachel, how do we determine the alcohol percentage in wine?
So, kids, what happens is the yeast convert the sugars in the juice to, there's 3 main things that you're going to get out of fermentations. You're going to get CO2, you're going to get heat. It's a very, lost the word. Oh my gosh, science girl lost the word.
Exothermic.
What is it?
Exothermic? Is that the process or no?
I'm like, it's an extroverted reaction. I'm like, it is very extroverted.
An extroverted reaction. Yes.
I'm like, lost it. Where did it go? I can't even believe I lost it. Yes.
It releases heat.
It's very I'm out.
Friends. It's true though, Rachel, when you make wine, you do make friends. It's a very extroverted reaction.
All my friends. So CO2 exothermic reaction, it's very hot, and unless you have really great chillers to chill it all back down, and you get alcohol as a byproduct from the conversion of the yeast conversion from sugar into ethanol. So it's directly related to the amount of sugar that you have in. So one of the things, this is actually a great time to talk about this since we're in the beginning of the, the middle of the beginning of harvest for us. So right now we're looking at all the grapes at all our vineyards that are there and what's available, determining where the best ripeness stage is for them. So we're looking at the sugar content, we're looking at the acidity levels, the pHs, and we're looking at the phenolics in the grape. What does the grape itself taste like? What do the seeds look like? How is the skin holding up? And so we have kind of goal points for most of the varietals, all of our varietals really, of where we want all of these things to be. And a lot of it's
down? Did you write those down?
I made notes.
Well, what determines, what helps determine the alcohol is the amount of sugar that we go into fermentation with. And as Rachel said, and I'm about to mansplain, you know, I asked Jody what mansplaining was one time, and she told me just keep talking. I was doing it perfectly.
It's very hard for us to explain it to you.
So, but yeah, you know, the CO2, like carbon in, carbon out, basically, right? So there's shortcut math for a math illiterate like myself. So, but so this wine, and I don't have the bottle in front of me. Rachel, what is the alcohol on this?
This one, you don't have this bottle in front of you?
No, I don't.
It is 13% even.
I decanted the wine because it's a 2016. So
Nicely done.
yeah, and it's 13% even. So it's a beautiful.
That's a French formulation. I mean, you know, 12, 8, 13. That's exactly where they tend to land their wonderful Burgundies. Amazing.
Well, okay, so what are some of the things, after you've had a couple sips now, guys, you've got to pop in here. Doc, what are you getting on the palate? And where does it start and finish for you?
Well, what I'm getting, you know, that the Chardonnay is derived from the Roman town that was near Macon called Cardonicum, which means wild thistle and artichokes. And that's what I'm getting on the nose, John. No?
Gary was not wrong that we get a little esoteric. I'm just saying.
Wild thistle and artichokes. And also, you know, some nice butter, nice vanilla, some really kind of ripe fruits, banana, and maybe a little pineapple, a little peach. You know, beautifully balanced wine. This was an oak for an enormously long period of time.
Almost a year.
Yeah, what? A whole
Almost a year.
Yeah, it was over a year.
It was.
Yeah, because I kept losing it for some reason. We couldn't find the barrels to get it out of there when Doc wanted it out of the barrel. We failed.
No, you know, and I have to say, I get really, really excited. Join Canada, if you're listening to me, I love this wine. So, you know, he gave me so much slack when I was out in his vineyard the other day about loving Viognier.
Mm-hmm.
This is our Viognier. So I hope I'm back in the good graces. I love this wine. And I really think that this is such a beautiful Chardonnay, a beautiful, very classic style of Chardonnay. And I think that I get super excited, John, that you and I are doing a really, really fine job, as I hope everybody agrees for the rest of this week.
Yeah, right. Especially the rest of this week.
John, I want to tell people how to drink this wine. Not with a straw, John, but don't get it ice cold. This wine is better, you know, just cool. And it needs to be decanted maybe for 30, 45 minutes, an hour, and then not icebox cold, but maybe 60 degrees, somewhere around there. And then it will release all these beautiful soft notes that we're talking about. It
will. I cheated. I put my bottle in the freezer for 20 minutes and then I decanted it. So, and it's not icebox cold. I mean, I chilled it down. It was probably about 50 degrees when it went into the decanter, but it's come along nicely. And I agree with you, Doc. It's cool, but not cold. And the nose is perfect on there.
And now that it's warmed up quite a bit, you get so much more of those tropical notes that you were speaking of, Doc. And I think it's kind of funny to point out, we have two Chardonnay sources here in Texas. We get the Canadas, who are way up in the high plains, right? Way up in Plains, Texas. And then, of course, we have Drew, who's here in Mason County. So I like to talk about the dichotomy of that is our cold Chardonnay and Drew's is our warm weather Chardonnay. So even the difference between these two elevations, you know, what's it, 3,500 feet?
Right.
And the super cold weather that Plains gets versus the not so cold weather that Mason County gets. Even that to me is so, sorry, I've lost all my words. Dichotomy is the only word I can think of right now. Extroverted dichotomy.
Extroverted dichotomy. So we got a question. So do you recommend we decant the other wines this week? I would.
Yes.
I would, Doc, you would too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Rachel, decant or no decant? Decant?
You can't, and keep it, like Doc said, a little bit warmer, not so icebox cold.
Right, right. Divergent maybe is a good word. Trish just gave you the word divergent.
Trish.
Thanks, Trish.
Well, you know, a great segue though, Rachel, because we are going to be tasting the 2017 on Wednesday. And I believe, isn't that the all Drew? That's all
That was also
at the blend.
Canada.
What?
All Canada.
Canada? Okay. So it's the 18 that's the talent. Okay.
That's
Okay.
correct, yeah.
So Friday will.
On yeast, the famous yeast for this has been Prix de Mousse. What yeast did you use?
We did not use Prix de Mou at all. No.
And why not? I know you had a reason.
I do not.
Okay.
No.
I don't like it because it makes Le Montrachet or.
Oh gosh. Well.
All right, I'll take better notes for Wednesday.
This leads into a whole discussion that we're American winemakers. We grow American fruit and we're making damn good wine. And we're going to use a yeast that's made in America. Harold.
We're talking Budweiser? I mean,
Yeah,
what is it?
No, actually, you know, there's a Prix de Mou, and 11, was it 1150 or 1105, which is also a from Epernay. Both of those are very, very good, but they are completely dry, and they leave virtually no unfermented sugars for mouth and for body. And I think the unfermented is as important as the fermented on there. And you know, we'll use we're using CH9. QA23 was the yeast that we used in 2016 on this. It is a Chardonnay derivative, a Burgundy isolate of yeast that did very, very nicely, but it has a lot more subtlety on that fruit. That fruit note stays intact. I just really think that if I'm drinking a varietal, I want to know that varietal. I want to see it. I want to smell it. I want to know that I'm drinking a Chardonnay and not a ubiquitous white wine. And I feel like Prix de Mou sometimes strips things out of there. No, I'm not saying they don't, but you know, they also allow that wine in those barrels for what, 36 months? I'm just saying. You know.
Let it go.
It's just not if I'm there.
Well, okay, so Rachel, you know the question's coming. So what would you pair it with?
Barrel program? Oh, food. I thought we were going to talk barrel program. Oh,
What?
so excited.
You
Barrel
thought what?
program?
Barrel program we will talk about, but let's do food first.
We're gonna do food first.
Yeah.
I was not prepared for that. I was prepared for barrel program. What do I want with my Chardonnay? I'm not gonna lie. I drink this without food a lot.
Right?
I do.
So-
I pass. I'll come back to that. I'm gonna think about it.
All right. No,
Clearly, I was
what-
one
what
last
would
week.
that
I wasn't prepared for
I mean,
anything.
I thought you were going to say an Oreo cookie ice cream sandwich, first of all, but you know, I guess I was wrong.
No.
Doc, what would you pair with this, sir?
The last time I had my chance, I didn't say this, but the very best thing to taste with this is a Hill Country pecan. It has to be this year's, not dry, not oxidized, not stale, not browning. A fresh, beautiful pecan on a great year, not fried with butter and salt in a skillet. A fresh pecan. Try it, and with Chardonnay, it just lights up the palate. Then you can eat what you want after that, but that's where I'd start.
So you're okay with the yeast that we used with wine grown in Texas, eating a Texas pecan? Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Actually,
it's not a pecan,
right?
not a pecan, John. It's a pecan. Yeah.
Right. Oh, pecan.
Yeah.
Well,
Like Cabeza de Vaca lived on for a year, walking around with no clothes on and nothing to eat but pecans.
who was this?
Cabeza de Vaca's ship sank with all this. They put their clothes on it, you know, to make it lighter, and then it sank. And they were now on shore with not a stitch on. They had to walk 1,000 miles and eat pecans, and they didn't have Chardonnay. They probably went right by Mrs. Canada's vineyard. I mean, just Probably over it a couple times.
I'm telling you right now, do not walk by Mrs. Canada's Vineyard naked today. You won't get very far.
Better have a lot of really good pecans. So better share.
So, well, no, but you're right. Just the pecan does.
And here's a pecan right here. There's one. That's what you want. Try that.
Yeah. Oh.
Mm.
Okay. So pecan, apparently. I think this would go great with pecan pie, but
It might.
Rachel,
Pecans
have you come up with a food with as an interesting story as Doc just told? That's the challenge.
Right. Oh my gosh, seriously, I'm going to need a week to prepare for that.
What,
so
naked
the
shipwreck
other night-
survivors? You need a week for that?
I need a week to come up with a story about people walking naked across Texas with no Chardonnay and pecans only. Because they left their
It
boat.
wasn't their first choice. No.
Can you get a
That's all the things
dispensation?
that happen.
Can you,
He
can
wrote
you,
a book. Wrote
can
a
you
book
get a
about
Friday
it.
dispensation for that?
We're
Probably
gonna.
the first book wrote about Texas.
What?
Cabezas of Octa's description of his on natural stroll and surviving on pecans. He'd love to have had Chardonnay.
He probably would have loved to have had a parasol at least. It's in Texas, it's kind of hot.
I know. Okay, I'm going to take this back. You guys are getting way out of control over there. So the other night I did make a shrimp scampi with zoodles, which has become one of my favorite new things. And I really, that night I was wishing that I had a bottle of the Chardonnay, our Chardonnay, to go with that. I think that would
Champion zoodles. Mhm. So not the real noodles, but zoodles.
They're not fake noodles. They're not noodles at all. It's a vegetable.
So, you know what a zoodle is, Doc?
No.
It's a zucchini noodle.
It's not a noodle. It's spiralized.
It's a spiralized
It's a
piece of zucchini. Okay. So,
Can you
I
tell
don't
this is a
think
conversation we have a
really
lot of
is
work?
right? I, to be honest with you, I was honestly thinking redfish, a really nice piece of redfish goes very well with this. As a matter of fact, we've had this down at the coast. It's very, very nice. Our first year release on this, we did a dinner down in Port A with this wine. It was a brilliant showing. It was at Marlin's, I think it was, the restaurant down there. Beautiful place. The chef down there, and I cannot remember her name. This woman was a delight and could she's a genius with fish. And the Chardonnay did beautifully. When you find somebody that knows how to prepare fish, you have found a perfect chef in my mind. So
Very good friend.
yeah, very good friend. Absolutely. Okay, so barrel program, Rachel.
Oh, it's one of my favorites. So we are very adamant about our French barrels, our new French oak, and our white wines, right? This is a pretty standard. But I do believe in 2016, it was 30% new French oak. Of our neutral oak, there was a mixture of French and American. And so, John, we've talked about a lot of this. Trish, I need words. We have talked about this a lot in the last several months about our why we choose French, why we choose American, what it lends, what it's going to contribute to it. And I really feel like in this particular wine, there's a bit of a savoriness, and it's almost like a time note that I can't help but think that that's probably coming from the American oak.
I don't think we used American oak in this. This was 2016. We only fermented in French oak. I don't think we used.
I'm
What?
just kidding.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I'll have to go back and look, but I could have, I could swear that on the Chardonnay, we may have put some later in neutral American, but for fermentation, I think we only used the new French oak on that.
Okay.
Yeah. So the American oak, if it's too new, if it's not 2 years old, the American oak to me gives way too much of that coconut and vanilla edge to a wine.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I know that it was not new American oak.
Right. Okay.
Like,
right.
we absolutely do not do that with our white wines, but more of a neutral American oak.
Right on.
The only new oak was French.
So Doc, any final notes on this particular wine, sir?
No, I think it's beautiful, John. I agree with what you're saying. And gosh, the nose, the palate, I don't think in a blind tasting, nobody would say, this is from Texas.
Mhm.
You know, it's just, but it is. And it's just a wonderful job of grape growing and winemaking. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you.
Oh, well, somebody just said, John, that's what the website says. Okay, so if it's on the internet, it must be true.
Gotta be true. There you go.
Okay, apparently my memory is not as good as I thought it was.
Why you have me, boo?
But there you go. All right. So Wednesday, we will be doing the 2017 Chardonnay. And then I don't have in front of me, do you have in front of you, Rachel, next week's lineup wines? I believe we're starting with the Primavera. It'll be
I
online.
looked at it yesterday and I fell.
Right. I'll tell you what, if we're really lucky, then Kaylin's listening to us and she'll put in next week's lineup in the comment section for us. And then we will be called on the carpet tomorrow by Brett by not having been prepared. So, anyway, I want to thank everybody for spending their half an hour with us this evening. As always, it's very enjoyable. And I'm glad we're back live with everyone to yet again enjoy the comments and the banter. Doc, Rachel, thanks again for taking the time.
Thank you.
Everybody out there, cheers, great health and a good glass of wine. And we'll see everyone on Wednesday for the 2017.
Nice job, troops. Good job. Yeah.